Hi, this is Miss Reese, and I'm going to discuss how to do a few of the problems on the Unit 8 practice test and also give you some guidance on how you're going to submit your work for the actual test that you're taking on Friday. So first page here, we are solving each of the equations by using the zero product property and or factoring. So if you notice, questions 1, 2, 3, and 4 are already factored for you. So all we're going to do here is use the zero product property. We don't have to factor because it's already factored. So on the first question, you might want to, or it might be helpful to place a set of parentheses around that first P. And remember that we have to take each part of these parentheses or each factor and set them equal to 0. Once you solve for P in both of these equations, that will be your solution set. And then we always put our solution set, or for these problems, we're going to represent our solution set in a set of braces, okay? We're going to do that for this question as well. So you take each part, n minus 1, set that equal to 0, same thing here. You're going to do that with question 3. And you're going to go ahead and do that with question 4. So remember, you can print this out if you want, but for the test, you won't be able to actually print this out. So what you're going to need to do on your own piece of paper, remember with your pen, you're going to write your name on it. And you're going to write your name on every single piece of paper that you're using. And so let's say, for example, question 1, I'm going to write this out, P, and then 2P plus 5. So make sure you're writing out the details of the question as well. And so then we would say, okay, well, we're going to set P equal to 0, and we're going to set 2P plus 5 equal to 0. All right, this one's solved already. We're subtracting 5 on both sides, divide by 2 on both sides. So my solution set for question 1 is going to be 0 and negative 5 over 2. And then that was solution C. So I'll put C next to it as well. So just make sure when you're writing these out that you're numbering each question that you're solving, okay? So that's how you're going to set up questions 1 through 4 using the zero product property. On question 5, we are going to start with factoring. So, and then using the zero product property. So remember, with factoring, we create a box and diamond, and we place our first term in the first box, our last term in the last box, and then we make our diamond. We multiply these two, put them to the top of the diamond, and then we place our middle term at the bottom of the diamond. Now we're looking for numbers that multiply to negative 16, but add up to a negative 6. So when we start thinking of factors that multiply to 16, sometimes I just like to list them out. 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 3 doesn't go in, 4 and 4. And then I'm looking for a combination that will multiply to a negative and add up to a negative as well. So let's look at these two values here. So let's do 8x and 2x. 8 times 2 is 16, and let's make the 8 negative so that when they add up, we get a negative 6. So we get negative 8x and positive 2x, and those can go in either place, either order. Greatest common factor between x squared and 2x is x. Greatest common factor between x squared and negative 8x is also x. And then we see x multiplied with what gives me 2x, and it's x multiplied with 2. X multiplied with negative 8 gives me negative 8x. And then we can just double check. Negative 8 times 2 gives us the negative 16. So then we could write this as x minus 8 parentheses x plus 2 equals 0. And then you're going to take each of these parts. X minus 8, set it equal to 0. Same thing here. X plus 2, set it equal to 0. You're going to do that for question 6. Let's look at the next page, question 7. Now, before you set up question 7, remember that you need to have this set equal to 0. So you are going to want to subtract 5v on both sides first. Once you subtract 5v on both sides, 3v squared minus 5v minus 12. Now you can go ahead and do the box and diamond method with that, and you're going to do the same thing here as well. We're going to be adding 4 to both sides to set it equal to 0, and then you can go ahead and factor that. Questions 9 through 12, you are using the quadratic formula. Okay, so question 9 and 10 are already set up so that you can identify the A, B, and C. You're going to want to identify A. A would be 6. B here is -3, and C is -108. And then we're just going to plug this into the quadratic formula. So x equals -b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so I'll go through one of these questions with you. So now here we're going to get x equals negative times a -3. That's just going to be 3 plus or minus square root. -3 squared is 9. And then for this part, I'm going to go ahead and grab my calculator. So I'm going to multiply out -4 with a 6 with a -108. And that's going to be all over 12. Okay, so from here, we're going to go ahead and add those two values together. And then let's take the square root of that number. And it's going to be 51. So we're going to have two answers. We're going to have x equals 3 plus or minus 51, all divided by 12. So if you want to create a fraction, you can go ahead and add those two together first. If we do 3 plus 51, that's going to be 54 divided by 12. You can put it in a fraction format of 9 over 2. That's 4.5. Or in decimal format, which is going to be matching our answer here, it'll be 4.5. Okay, and then you do need to show the work for the other portion. So 3 minus 51, and then take that and divide it by 12 as well. Okay, now on questions 11 and 12, before you identify A, B, and C, make sure every term is on the left side set equal to 0. So you're going to want to subtract 9 on both sides first here. And then on this question, you're going to want to add 4r to both sides as well. Okay, great. Let's look at question 13. We have some graphs. Okay, so I'll do one question with you for the graph, and we want to make sure we have a table of values. So this is in standard form. And remember, our first step to graph in standard form is identifying the vertex so that we can create a table, because we don't want to just plug in any random numbers. So remember, our vertex, or the axis of symmetry first, is x equals -b over 2a. So b is 2 over 2 times a is 1. This is going to be -2 divided by 2, which is -2 divided by 2 is -1. So now when I create a table of values, I'm going to put -1 in the middle, and on a number line, 0 and 1 are after that, and -2 and -3 are before that. And then all I'm going to do is go ahead and plug in my values into my calculator. So we have x squared, so -3 squared. Oops, I need to do a parentheses here. I'm going to restart. -3 squared plus 2 times -3 plus 3. So that gives us a value of 6. You're going to do that for the entire table. I would recommend plugging in all the values to make sure that you're getting something that's symmetrical on the table. And once you have all those table of values, you should be easily able to identify which graph it matches up with. So you're going to do that for question 14 as well. You can do the -b over 2a to find your axis of symmetry line, and then find your vertex for it as well. I know that you might be able to identify the graph from that, but we do want you to actually create your table of values and show that in your work for the test. Okay, let's look at, missing one page. An equation where we're in vertex form. So remember, in vertex form, let me move that a little bit. In vertex form, HK is the vertex. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is identify where the vertex is located. So x minus h is 1. And then k is here, -3. So now when you create your table of values, the first step is to identify the vertex and put it at the middle of your table. So 1, -3. And then after 1 on a number line would be 2 and 3. Before that would be 0 and -1. So now from this table of values, you're going to do the same exact thing. You're going to plug in a -1 in for x to solve for the value of y out of that. So let me do one example with you for that. So we have -2 parentheses. We're plugging in a -1 minus 1 squared minus 3. So we're going to get -11. You're going to repeat that process by plugging in a 0, a 2, and a 3 as well. And then you're going to do the same thing with question 16. Okay, and then our next question here on the last page, we're converting this into vertex form. So remember, our first step is to move the c value to the opposite side. So we'd have to add it to both sides. So y plus 40, we're going to leave a space here, equals x squared minus 6x. Remember, the part that we're adding to both sides is half of this value squared. So we need to know what -6 divided by 2 is. Well, that's -3. And -3 squared is 9. So we're just going to put a plus 9 on both sides here. Now from here, I would combine all of your like terms on the left, simplify that. You're going to rewrite this as a perfect square, and then your last step is isolating y again. So instead of y plus 40, 90, you need to move that to the other side, okay?